One of the hardest parts of being a hypnotist or hypnotherapist is not knowing why a client disappears and what that actually says about your work. And there's one explanation that a lot of practitioners go to first, and that is the client just wasn't ready. They got close to the change and maybe they saw what was underneath and they pulled back, got cold feet. I mean, it does happen. This does happen. Sometimes a client realizes that the behavior they came in to change is actually doing something for them. They're getting a benefit from it. It's protecting something. That glass of wine maybe isn't just a habit, it's what's helped them to avoid having a difficult conversation. That worry and fear isn't just something that they wish was gone, but it's tied to emotions they don't feel ready to face or a truth that they're not ready to own up to yet. I've seen that before. So they get close to that and they step away. That is a real thing. And that is also the space where someone who is in mastery of transformational change, you can actually head some of that off on your consult once you understand what causes those things and you can meet that person where they are. You can minimize a lot of the ghosting that will happen with that. But saying that the client isn't ready can become a real problem. It's the easiest way to explain why the client didn't come back, and you don't look any further. You don't look any deeper, because if you decide the client wasn't ready, you don't have to question yourself. You don't have to question your process or how you do things. And the reality is, unless we can make contact with someone, we don't know if that's what really happened. I actually know someone whose client ghosted, and come to find out that client had stepped into something that probably wasn't the smartest or wisest thing to do. And it had nothing to do with the hypnosis. Sometimes people get sick, sometimes a family member passes away. We can reach out and find out what happens there. But in reality, clients ghost for a few different reasons. And I'm going to share some of the common reasons that clients have shared with me when they were working with someone else. And they're like, it just didn't work out. And I'm like, tell me more about that. One of the number one reasons, the most common, is that the client didn't feel heard. Now, I don't mean that you're not listening. I mean that you weren't fully with them. There is a difference, because I will share with you from my basic certification training, I was taught that as I'm sitting with the client, I'm asking questions and I'm getting answers, that I am in process assessing and deciding where I need to go. So they may be talking to me, and the way that they're talking, I'm pre-framing how I need to say the next thing. I'm thinking about, do I want to do a suggestibility test? Do I not want to do a suggestibility test? Oh my God, this person's really analytical. Which induction should I use? So you're listening to them, you're not hearing them. You're thinking about the technique. You're planning the session as you're going. And you're anticipating what you're going to do next. And when that's happening, something subtle shifts in your connection with the client. The client can feel you're not fully present. And they may not be able to explain it, but they do feel it. And when someone doesn't feel fully heard, they don't stay engaged. They're just going to quietly fade away. They will go through the motions of the session, and when they're done, they're done. Another reason that a client will ghost is because the work doesn't match what they came in for. So You may connect with what you feel is the root issue, and you might even be right. But if you move away from what the client actually asked for, then you didn't listen. From your perspective, you're going deeper, you're going to the root cause. From their perspective, you totally missed them and didn't hear what they said. They don't know how to connect the dots. And once that happens, they're not going to come back for you to fix it. If some big burly 280-pound guy comes in and he says he wants to stop smoking and you're doing a self-love session, he's not coming back. I hate to say it. He's not coming back. They just don't come back. They think you don't know what you're doing. They think you don't listen. And hypnotists are often the person of last result, the person of last resort. They want someone to listen, and that's a huge part. But then there's the very opposite end of the spectrum, and this will happen. This has happened to me a couple of times, where the results were just so mind-blowing and so quick and so fast. They got exactly what they needed and they didn't come back. Like maybe there was a little bit more to the process, but maybe had another session scheduled, but the end of that second, third, or fourth session, everything is so good. They have just had compounded results between each session. It has just built and built and built. They're like, I don't need anything else. I'm good. And they do that. And you can follow up later. It might take some time. You follow up later and they're like, oh yeah, I've been great. It's been amazing. Absolutely amazing. So it can happen that the change happened. They felt better and they just move on. They don't think to follow up. Your emails could be going into spam. And here's the thing, you're there to be the client's hypnotist, not their friend. Some clients become raving fans and they're commenting on your social media and they're your cheerleader. Other people came for the transformation and they move on. So not every disappearing client is a problem, but if you can't reach that person or you can't see and observe what's happening, if they're not on social media or something like that, so you can see them out in the wild, as they say, to see how they're doing, you have no idea. So without context, that silence can create doubt. And another reason clients will ghost is expectations. We can do a pre-talk. We can chat with a client, and depending on the issue they're coming for, there are some things that if they're not emotion driven, one session can resolve things when you're really good at what you do. Other people are dealing with complex issues. And when they're dealing with those complex issues and it takes a multi-layered approach, you can tell them that it may take several sessions. And you can even tell them that, sometimes the change is incremental. But then all of a sudden, once we've peeled back some layers, boom, you get the big change and it's like the world changes. They will agree with you. They will say they hear you, but deep down inside, there's a part of them that is wishing, hoping, and praying that their entire world is going to change in 60 minutes. They don't always say it, but it's there. So when they leave the session and things feel different, it's maybe an incremental improvement, but the issue's not resolved, they will question it. They will question you. They will question your technique. And I'm going to tell you, instead of bringing it back to you, they're going to go somewhere else. You know where they're going to go? They're going to go to Reddit. They are going to go to Facebook, and they are going to go into the hypnosis and the hypnotherapy Facebook groups. And they're going to say, hey, I had this session that I did with the hypnotist and we did blah, 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 blah. And nothing happened. And 174 other hypnosis practitioners are going to pile in there and they're going to tell this person that what your hypnotist did was wrong. So, well, some of them, myself included, will go in and say there's not enough information here because we don't know exactly what the hypnotist was doing. We don't know all the details of your issue. We don't know what process, how they were approaching the issue. And most of the time we're talking, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Most of the time we're talking about people who are dealing with anxiety or long-term issues that generally have a tendency to self-doubt anyway. They've had so much reinforcement in their life that things don't work. Then this is just one more thing that they're afraid is not going to work, and they've invested. So they get opinions from people who weren't in the freaking room, who don't know what was done, who don't understand the context, who make a ton of assumptions based on their narrow perspective, and they will answer anyway. And it will undermine your client's confidence in their ability to change. It will undermine their confidence in you and your entire process, because they're going through multiple conflicting perspectives, and now they're even more confused than they were before. And once the confusion sets in, they don't know who to trust, so they disengage. Or they may come back to you, but they're approaching their work with you from a place of doubt. We cannot force anyone's mind to change. And if they have doubt that what you're doing is working, now that becomes your biggest hurdle to overcome. And I don't know about you, but I am not in the business of convincing people. So this is one of the reasons my work is structured the way that it's structured, is because I found early on, when I was in that coaching group, I've mentioned it in one of the other videos, that I would observe people and I would see them going in and asking questions that they should be asking me as their hypnotist. And I'm like, you know what? Letting a client have a week between sessions when we're dealing with emotionally charged issues or emotionally driven issues, going a week with no contact between us, that is hurting my results. So I changed my process. And it has been 6 years since I did a session with someone with no support in between sessions. So, here's the thing. Sometimes the clients do get cold feet, and the protective part of them pulls back. Sometimes they saw what was underneath. They weren't ready to face it. But you don't have that every single time. You can't assume that, because when you do, you fall off of the learning curve. You become unteachable, and you stop refining your ability to see what's actually happening, because ghosting is not random. It happens for a reason. Clients leave when they don't feel heard. They leave when the work doesn't match what they came in for. They will also leave when their results blew their mind and were beyond their expectations. And hey, they're not there to be your friend. So they're like, huh, I'm done. Good, cool, awesome. I really never wanted to have to go to the witch doctor anyway. They leave when they become confused. And sometimes, they're just not ready. But if you collapse that into just one simple explanation, you miss the nuance. And nuance is where mastery in hypnosis and deep personal transformation exist. Because the real question isn't just why did they leave? It's whether you're willing to look at all of the possible reasons, even the ones that are uncomfortable, instead of choosing the one that's just the easiest to sit with. Like, subscribe. See you in the next video.